President Trump yesterday signed an executive order banning federal funding of gain-of-function research in foreign countries. Now, gain-of-function research is the primary source behind the lab leak theory regarding the origins of COVID-19. The Wuhan Institute of Virology had received gain-of-function research funding from the U.S. in the past. Here to discuss this and more is Congressman Nathaniel Moran, who serves as the House Select Committee, serves on the House Select Committee on the CCP, the Ethics Committee, and the Committee on the Ways and Means. He represents the 1st Congressional District of Texas. Congressman, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Hi, Tony. Great to be with you tonight.
Before we get into the Chinese Communist Party and this gain-of-function research, we understand the Ways and Means Committee met this morning to discuss the One Big Beautiful Bill. What's the latest on that?
Tony, we've been meeting for months now as a committee to go through provision by provision those things that we need to consider to meet the goals of President Trump as he promised in the 2024 campaign, also to extend the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and to find additional ways to begin to renew and restore our economy and get more growth going, reduce taxation in our families and our farmers, to bring liberty back to Americans across the board, from the top to the bottom. We want to make sure that taxation remains low and growth remains high.
So, are we making progress? Are we getting closer?
Yeah, we're making progress. I think we're talking about days, not weeks, before we're able to come forward with a bill that we can then have a markup on, and then combine with the bills that came out of the other committees of jurisdiction pursuant to the budget resolution that was passed several weeks ago, that then we can package up and send over to the Senate.
All right, Congressman Moran, let's talk about China, the Chinese Communist Party. But let's talk about the gain-of-function research, the prohibition, the executive order that President Trump signed yesterday. How significant is this?
Yeah, it's critical for us to do this because we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. It's abhorrent to think about the fact that our money here, American taxpayer money, actually found its way to the Wuhan lab and helped to support some of the research that then ultimately led to what we dealt with the coronavirus pandemic. This gain-of-function research is some serious stuff. We need to have transparency and accountability, and we need to know where our dollars are going. And frankly, we need to make sure that our adversaries and those that are not taking care of the research the way they should are not getting American taxpayer dollars.
Why, in the first place, would we be giving money to the Chinese Communist Party to do this type of research, which we know could be weaponized?
Yeah, that's the critical question. Why indeed did that happen in the first place? It should have never happened, and we should never let it happen again. And that's why we appreciate President Trump taking such a strong stance on this. We've got to follow up legislatively and make sure that we put this kind of thing into statute so that it's not just an executive order that can be undone in 4 years with an administration that might be more friendly to our adversaries. We don't want to see that happen. We want to make sure that we get it codified so that it's permanent.
Is this one of those items, because it is a budgetary item, that could be handled in reconciliation, knowing that it's unlikely to get 60 votes in the Senate?
Well, there sure is. We want to make sure that we are treading lightly when it comes to policy. We're not involved in policy making when it comes to reconciliation. Reconciliation is a matter of dollars and cents, and reconciling our revenues with our expenditure. And so the Committee of Jurisdiction will have to take up whether or not they think this fits within that. But we also certainly have to be keenly aware of what the parliamentarian in the Senate might do as well under the Byrd rule. So I'm certain that the Committees of Jurisdiction are looking at this particular executive order to determine whether or not it should or could actually make it in reconciliation. Time will tell in the next couple weeks.
Now, you serve on the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Constantly, we're seeing information coming out of their activities to infiltrate American society institutions. Last week, the Washington Free Beacon unveiled records of the CCP-linked donations to UC Berkeley. What Are they backing off at all under the Trump administration, or do we still see them with their tentacles in American institutions trying to influence policy and the culture?
Oh, they're certainly trying to do that. When you look at UC Berkeley and well over $500,000 just in 2022 and 23 that we see from that report. But frankly, if you go back to 1981 until now, about $57 billion to educational institutions flowing in from adversarial countries around the world into our research institutions. Well, that's concerning, because when China and other adversaries have their money in our universities, particularly in our research institutions, what happens is they have access to those systems, to those data. They get the intellectual property resulting from a lot of that research. They get their people over here to be part of that research. And so we see the hands and the tentacles of the Chinese Communist Party all over the place. And unfortunately, colleges and universities that are looking for funding sources sometimes turn a blind eye to the reality of what's happening in their own campuses as a result of the desire to chase the money.
Isn't that a national security issue?
It absolutely is a national security issue. That's why the Congress passed the Deterrent Act earlier this year to strengthen Section 117 of the Higher Education Act, which is the requirement for educational institutions to report donations over $250,000 or investments over $250,000. But the Deterrent Act goes further. It says, hey, we're going to move that to $50,000 for any foreign investment into our higher education system, and we're going to move it to $0. If you get anything above $0 from a foreign entity of concern, you have to report that. And oh, by the way, there's not any good teeth in Section 117 right now. Currently, as it exists, the Deterrent Act adds those teeth and says, if you don't follow the reporting requirements, if you're not transparent, then there's going to be fines and potentially loss of Title IV funding for those colleges and universities that do not report those things in a timely manner and in a full manner, which has been happening.
We just got about 30 seconds left, but the president announcing he's going to extend the TikTok deadline again. Should we be concerned about TikTok?
Yeah, we really should be concerned about TikTok. We need to see a total divestment from the Chinese Communist Party ownership. That's really the only solution. That's what the statute calls for, and that's what I expect to see happen.
All right. Congressman, always great to see you. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Tony.